Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast. I'm Devin Davidson. I'll be your host for this evening. Bruce Gunther will hopefully be joining us here shortly. John Enns is not available tonight, and neither is Tyler Homan. So that makes for an interesting situation. You get me and just me for tonight, or potentially Bruce later. But like I said, we're going to start with myself here. So this is episode 164, NHL Fantasy Preview for Week 17, Part 2, as this is an extended week with the NHL All-Star break. And with no further ado, I'm just going to kick it off here with John's list. So if you're a regular listener of the podcast, you've undoubtedly been familiar with John's list, John's shit list of players, past and present. We've thrown in the occasional commissioner, GM, coach, or newsworthy topic from around the hockey world. And this week is Eithan Grisham for choking out a goaltender. And so for those of you that maybe missed this, it was Junior B, I believe, hockey. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, just an ugly, ugly scene, choked out a goaltender. Stuff like that should not be happening in 2024, but here we are. So, Eithan Grisham, you make the list this week for utter stupidity. Moving on to our fantasy lock of the week, we've got William Eklund, left wing eligible for the San Jose Sharks, 4% rostered in Yahoo and 46% rostered in Fantrax. San Jose had 3 games last week, and William made the most of it with 5 points in 5 games, all assists, only 1 shot on goal over that span. He averaged 18:41 time on ice and 2:30 power play time on ice. He's only on a 57-point pace this season with not a great team in the Sharks, but nonetheless makes our fantasy lock of the week this week. Honorable mention goes to Troy Terry, 4 points in 2 games, 3 goals, 1 assist. We should also mention Connor McDavid had 4 points in 1 game. And I think we should give some love to our captain, Connor McDavid, as well, for winning the skills competition at the NHL All-Star Game. He looked utterly dominant in the skills competition. For those of you that care, I thought it was impressive all around, especially the accuracy shooting was great from him. And as we would expect, he's one of the fastest skaters alive, so no surprise there that he finishes on top with that one. Let's move on to Edgework, NHL schedule for Week 17, Part 2. This is obviously the segment where we put in the work to give you the edge in your fantasy hockey leagues. Each week, we're going to cover the NHL schedule and waiver wire targets to try and guide you to victory. So here's what you need to know. In Week 17, Part 2, this is the second half of Week 17, as I mentioned. Only 1 full day this week on Saturday. The rest are considered light days. 50% or fewer NHL teams in action. This week with a total of 38 games on the schedule. The remaining light days of the week have 8 games or less. In terms of attempting to optimize the schedule for games played, 3 teams play 4 games next week. All 3 of the teams play their three of their games on light days, and Florida and St. Louis play 3 of their 4 games on light days. Also of note, the New York Rangers play all 3 of their games on light days. The teams to fade this week are Anaheim, Columbus, Detroit, LA, Nashville, Ottawa, and Seattle, as they only play 1 game this week. And just a quick recap here. Monday, 2 games. Tuesday, 8 games. Wednesday, 3. Thursday, 7. Friday, 3. Saturday, 13. And Sunday, 2. And that is what you need to know. If you want to check which teams are playing 4, 3, 2, and 1 games, we're going to have that available on the website at heavyhockey.com. So go over there and check it out, as well as all of our waiver wire targets will be there as well. Which seems like a good place to jump off here. So NHL waiver wire targets for Week 17, Part 2. Our waiver wire targets, as always, are going to be focused on players that are rostered in approximately 50% or less of Yahoo or Fantrax leagues. So when considering players to target, we review recent performance, player deployment, upcoming schedule, and more. And starting off our forwards here, we've got Logan O'Connor, right wing eligible for the Colorado Avalanche. He's rostered in 14% of Yahoo leagues, 28% in Fantrax. 4 games on the schedule for the Avs this week against the Rangers, the Devils, the Hurricanes, and the Panthers. He is lining up on line 2 with Miles Wood and Ross Colton. We spoke about Logan Connor recently, but with a 4-game week coming up here, I think it bears worth mentioning again. 13 points and 8 goals in 12 games played during January. Nothing to sneeze at there. Virtually no power play time, so that's maybe a bit of a drawback here, but what he lacks in power play points, he makes up for in other categories, +9, 8 PIMs, 9 hits, 8 blocks. He did shoot 32% in January, though, and had a 77% IPP, so expect a slowdown in his production. But again, ride that streak while you can. Next up here is Pius Suter, center eligible for the Vancouver Canucks. He's rostered in 4% of Yahoo League, 17% in Fantrax. 4 games on the schedule for the Canucks this week, as we mentioned, or as I mentioned previously, at Carolina, at Boston, at Detroit, and at Washington. He's on that second line right now with JT Miller and Brock Besser, and he's actually seeing time on Power Play 1, which is really interesting. Again, another player that we spoke about recently, but definitely worth mentioning given his level of offensive production lately. 6 points, 4 goals in 3 games played, 10 points in 13 games during the month of January. And what makes him particularly interesting is the fact that during his last 4 games, he's played 81% power play share in 3 of those contests, 67% power play share in the other, while producing 3 power play points and 1 power play goal. So love the line mates, love the deployment, and the schedule for the upcoming week. And to top it all off, he is readily available everywhere. Go give him a look. Nicholas Waugh, center right wing eligible for Vegas. 9% rostered in Yahoo, 23% in Fantrax. 2 games this week only, Edmonton and Arizona. Obviously, when we make these recommendations, we love to provide players that are playing 3 and 4 games, but it doesn't always work out. So here we are. Line 2 with Eithan Barbashev and Jonathan Marchessault, as well as some time on Power Play 2. Waugh and line mate Eithan Barbashev have actually really picked up their production of late. Waugh, for his part, has produced 11 points and 2 goals in his last 7 games played, and he's now on pace for 52 points over a full season. Top 6 minutes and a role in the second power play unit should help solidify him as a valuable streaming option, at least while his current deployment lasts. And I just got notice here from Tyler that he is also not joining tonight because he is on his way home from hockey. Well, Tyler, if you're listening to this later, I'm trying to get this podcast wrapped up so that I can make my way over to hockey for a 9:30 start here in Saskatoon. So we'll see you next week, man. All right, Michael Bunting, left wing eligible for the Carolina Hurricanes, 28% rostered in Yahoo, 45% rostered in Fantrax. 3 games on the schedule this week, Vancouver, Colorado, and the New Jersey Devils. He is on the top line right now with Sebastian Aho and Teuvo Teravainen, as well as on Power Play 1. Pardon me. 5 points and 1 goal in his last 8 games. Not mind-blowing production from Michael Bunting, but a role in the top line with Sebastian Aho and Teuvo Teravainen, as mentioned, as well as that top power play unit production. It has to be taken into consideration as fantasy managers are evaluating their options for the second half of Week 17 here. 14 of Bunting's 31 points, this season have come on the power play. So if your fantasy team is in need of some power play production specifically, Bunting appears to be a solid option, on pace for 54 points over a full 82-game season. Last official forward here is Dylan Cousins, center right wing eligible for the Buffalo Sabres. 49% rostered in Yahoo, 75% rostered in Fantrax. Again, just 2 games on the schedule versus Dallas and St. Louis, both games at home. Line 2 with Zach Benson and JJ Peterka, and role on the second power play unit. The Hacks here, we had high expectations for Dylan Cousins coming into the 2023-2024 season. With 29 points and 10 goals, he's maybe fallen a bit short of our projections, but he certainly has picked up his production of late with 9 points and 4 goals over his last 7 games played. Just 2 games on the schedule, like I mentioned. It does make him a little bit more difficult to roster, but the Sabres do have 7 games over the next 2 weeks, so a 3 and a 4 game coming up here, so maybe worth picking up a little longer term. And like I said, dual eligibility is always nice. And one other guy I wanted to mention was Sean Monahan, who most of you probably already know was traded to the Winnipeg Jets. He was having a really solid season in Montreal. Seemed to be turning his career around, which is really nice to see after all of his previous success in Calgary. He's 25% rostered in Yahoo, 57% rostered in Fantrax, 11 points and 2 goals in his last 7 games played. And surprising, actually, Left Wing Lock put out a tweet earlier today. He was given a shot on the second-line center spot between Cole Perfetti and Nikolai Ehlers and a role on the top power play. So we'll see how long that deployment lasts. But, I mean, if that's the case and he's putting up the kind of points that he is, I can't see how you can pass on a player like this, especially when he's available in 75% of leagues. So give him a look for sure. And we'll see how he gets acclimated to that situation in Winnipeg. But playing with that level of talent and getting those types of minutes, I'm fairly confident in saying he's going to continue as long as he stays healthy with what we've seen from him so far this season. Moving on to defensemen here, we've got Rasmus Sandin out of Washington, rostered in 11% of Yahoo leagues, 48% in Fantrax. 4 games on the schedule for them: Montreal, Florida, Boston, Vancouver. And he's on that second pairing with Trevor Van Riemsdyk with a role on the second power play unit. Following a stint on IR, Sandin is back in action, and his time on ice is actually improved with each passing game, topping out at 23:07 time on ice against the Dallas Stars on January 27th. He's got just 1 goal through 3 games, but the offense is still coming. It's going to be there. Prior to him being injured, he did have 5 points in 5 games played. For Bangers League, Sandin has thrown 7 hits over his last 6 games, and he actually averages 1.53 hits per game over the course of his career. Like I said, the cherry on top here is that he does have 4 games, and it is against some stiffer competition. Obviously, Florida, Boston, and Vancouver are tough tests this year, but if you're looking for some help on D, someone who can throw a few hits and potentially add some power play points as well, that is a guy to keep an eye out for. Next up, this one's actually a little bit of a surprise for myself. Josh Manson out of the Colorado Avalanche. As I mentioned with Logan O'Connor, 4 games for the Avs this coming week. 33% rostered in Yahoo for him, 39% in Fantrax. He's playing on the second pairing with Samuel Girard, and he's been really productive, actually, of late. 10 points, 4 goals in his last 14 games played. Over that stretch, the Avs D-man has also been a +3, 16 penalty minutes, 19 blocks, and 46 hits. That's 3.28 hits per game for those of you that are good at math. Obviously, no power play time to speak of for Josh Manson, but the category coverage and current production mitigate or completely eliminate that concern. Great short-term streaming option, in my opinion, particularly in bash formats. Give him a look for this coming week and potentially longer. Another player we've talked about a couple times throughout the season here, but it's Hampus Lindholm, 55% rostered in Yahoo, 58% in Fantrax. 3 games on the schedule this week, all home contests against Calgary, Vancouver, and Washington. He's on that second pairing with Brandon Carlo and on power play 2. His decline in overall offensive production this season can at least partially be explained by his drop in shot rate at 3.2 shots on goal per 60 versus 5.1 shots on goal per 60 last year, and his individual shooting percentage at 1.6% this year versus 6.3% last year. But still, it's surprising that he's available in 45% of Yahoo leagues. He's still playing just shy of 24 minutes per game, still averaging almost 1.5 blocks per game, has a very respectable 8 points over his last 12 games played, and 3 games for this week, 2 against weaker opponents. So give him a look, especially if you're in maybe a deeper format. All right, and then to finish things up here, we've got our goaltenders, and for this week, there's a few of them I wanted to mention, starting off with Anthony Stolarz out of Florida, 11% rostered in Yahoo, 16% rostered in Fantrax, 3 games on the schedule, Philly, Washington, Colorado. He is 5-2-1 with a 1.93 goals against, a 916 save percentage in his last 9 appearances. Solid streaming option whenever he gets the call. And it is worth noting that he started 3 of the Panthers' last 5 games. Obviously, Bobrovsky was just the All-Star game. It's going to be tough for Stolarz to get a ton of starts, but keep an eye on him because when he plays, he's usually pretty good. Speaking of good, Ilya Samsonov has been much better of late. 66% rostered in Yahoo, 76% in Fantrax. Obviously not widely available, but a player that I wanted to mention given his production here lately. 3 games on the schedule, the Islanders, the Stars, and the Senators. He is 3-0-0 with a .98 goals against average and a 960 save percentage and 1 shutout in his last 3 starts. He appears to have found his game, which is great for the Maple Leafs and their fans. By all accounts, that demotion to the AHL was a much-needed wake-up call. Not going to be available for too much longer if you're interested in Ilya Samsonov. And then we got a couple more here that I want to take a quick look at, and these guys are more readily available if you're in a deeper setup. So David Rittich, Big Save Dave, as he's been known for the LA Kings, 24% in Yahoo, 27% in Fantrax. He is 3-1-3 with a 2.35 goals against, a 920 save percentage in his 9 appearances during the month of January. Obviously, we all know Cam Talbot's been struggling. Todd McClellan just got fired. PLD is doing his best impression of a terrible hockey player. So, if you're looking for a change in goal, if you're a Cam Talbot owner, Rittich could be a nice short-term solution. His numbers are pretty good right now. Give him a look. And then the last guy I had here to talk about was Charlie Lindgren out of Washington, 38% in Yahoo, 44% in Fantrax. Before allowing 11 goals in his 2 most recent starts against Dallas and Colorado, Lindgren had given up just 3 goals or less in 10 straight appearances dating back to December 9th. He's been a really, really solid option for them. Over that stretch, he posted a 4-3-2 record with a 1.94 goals against average and a .929 save percentage. With 4 games in the upcoming schedule, Lindgren needs to be on fantasy managers' radars. So give him a look. And there you have it, folks. That is our waiver wire targets and notes on the schedule for the upcoming week here. I kind of blew past that 16 minutes. That's a quick episode, but you know what? That's going to be a really nice short soundbite for you tomorrow morning to get you set up for the week. And that's going to do it. If you want to find us on social media, we're on Twitter or X at FH Hacks. We're on Instagram at Fantasy Hockey Hacks. Like I said, go check out all of our content over at Heavy Hockey. We'll have the blog post or the notes available there for you to review. I'm going to get our fundraising page up for the Heavy Hockey Showdown, which is taking place at the end of February. If you're interested in donating to that cause, it's a very worthwhile cause. Tyler and myself will be playing in the Heavy Hockey Showdown. Bruce and John are going to be available. We're going to be there for the weekend. So if you're going to be in the area, if you're going to be at the game, drop by, say hello. We'd love to talk to you. And that's going to do it. Also, be sure to check out our live show, Hacks Hangout, every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Mountain Time on EdmontonSportsTalk.com and on YouTube.com/heavyhockey. I'm Devin Davidson. Take care, folks. See you soon.